Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this video. My name is Kevin, and I would like to share with you this exciting AWS Cloud hands-on project. In this hands-on project, I am using AWS CodePipeline. It's a CI/CD pipeline solution. This automating the process of software delivery from code integration to deployment by utilizing tools such as GitHub, AWS CodePipeline, S3, and CloudFront. I've been able to streamline the automation deployment process of a static website. When developers make modifications to their code, they test each new update manually, then upload to the S3 bucket, where it eventually becomes live in the production website environment. This process is very time-consuming and error-prone. Time-consuming, and that changes must be made and uploaded to the S3 bucket on each occurrence. Error-prone due to a developer typing in code incorrectly and uploading without proper verification. In this project, I have created a static web page dedicated to those who served and are currently serving the United States Marines, of which I also served and I'm presently a veteran. I hope you guys are ready to learn and grow. Enough talk, let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to our GitHub account and then we're going to create a brand new repository. And we're going to create this repository by going to the upper right near the plus, drop down, new repository. So we're going to come up with a repository name. I'm going to call this one Veterans the website. Okay. Description. All right, so this is going to be a public repository. We want to add a README file, and we don't need to choose a license file for this. Let's go ahead and create a repository. Okay, so you see that a repository has been created, Veterans USMC website, and it has the README file. So the next thing I want to do is I want to upload the index.html file. That file has the code that we're going to use for our website. So let's go to add a file. Now let me go to the location where that file is. I'm going to drag that file over. Okay, and then I'm going to commit the change. Okay, so as you can see, I have the index.html file in the repository. So this is stage one of our project. So the next stage is we're going to go into the AWS console and we're going to create an S3 bucket. So right now we are in stage two. We're going to create an S3 bucket, and we're also going to enable it as a static website. So let's start off by creating the bucket. Okay, this is going to be a general purpose bucket. We're going to give it a unique name. The name we're going to be using and keeping consistent is Veterans USMC website. Okay, Veterans USMC website. All right, going to keep the default settings. As you can see by default, block all public access has been checked. We need to have folks from the outside come in and see the website. So we want to uncheck this, and we want to check the acknowledgement. We're going to leave the default settings as they are. We're going to click Create Bucket. Okay, as you can see, we've created the bucket, and click on the name. All right, so this is the bucket, Veterans USMC website S3. So now you can see that the bucket is empty. So what we're going to do next is we're going to enable a static website, and we're also going to create a bucket policy. So first, let me put in I want to put in 2 images. These 2 images is what I will use in the code in the index.html file. So let's go to upload. Okay, so let's go to the add files, and we're going to locate the 2 PNG files that we need. Let's select. Okay, so the first one is going to be soldiers. Second one is going to be USMC. Okay, let's open. Upload. Let's wait. Now these 2 files, as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to use within the index.html file. So when we open up the website and we see the text that I'm going to put in, you will also see both images showing up as well. Okay, upload succeeded. So as you can see, both files have been successfully loaded. And let me go back to the bucket. Okay, let me refresh. I'm just taking some time. Okay, I'm going to open up my file. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to need is the URLs for both of these image files. So let me go to the first one, PNG. I'm going to select this. This is the URL I'm going to put into my index.html file. Just do a copy paste. Okay, so let me go to the next one. I'm going to do copy paste here. I'm going to put this in my notepad. Okay, so let's get back into our bucket. Okay, so we've set up the bucket, we've uploaded the 2 images. So the next thing I want to do is let's enable the static website. So we'll go to properties, let's scroll all the way to the bottom, static website hosting. So we're going to edit, we're going to enable, index document. So now the index document, we need to let it know the name of the HTML file, which is going to be index.html. We have to make sure this is spelled correctly. Our index file Our index file starts with a capital I. Okay, so that looks good. I'm going to save the changes. Okay, so if we go back to objects. Okay, so we just enabled static web hosting, and you see a bucket website endpoint URL has been created. The next thing we want to do is, so that whatever's in the bucket can be seen, we want to go to permissions. Okay, and we want to create a bucket policy. So let's click the edit. I want to make sure we select the bucket ARN. This is going to be used in the code. We're going to do the policy generator. Okay, the type of policy, this is going to be for an S3 bucket. Principal, we're going to make sure we do an asterisk for all IP addresses, service, Amazon S3. Actions, we want to get object, let's go all the way down. Okay, so you want to get object, Amazon resource name the ARN. Remember we copied that earlier. We paste, we scroll to the very end, and we want to do a / wildcard so that all objects in the bucket can be seen. Once that is done, we're going to add the statement principal wildcard allow get object resources all the objects conditions. Let's generate the policy. This is what the policy looks like in JSON. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to copy everything in here. We're going to go back to our S3 bucket. I'm going to paste it here, bucket policy, and then we're going to save the changes. That's going to take some time. Let's go back to the policy generator. Let's close this out. Go back here. It's going to take a few minutes just to make sure that the policy takes. Okay, successfully edited bucket policy. Okay, so the bucket policy has been taken. And you can see it's right there. So now let me close this generator out. Alright, so now let's go to see the objects are there. Now let's just take a quick look at what the pictures look like. So we have this one, the PNG. Let's take a look at the URL. We'll copy, we'll paste, enter.
In this picture, we have a few Marines wearing dress blues, the most recognizable and formal uniform worn by Marines.
Okay, so let's go back to the next one is USMC. Click on URL. I'm going to put that in a web browser. Enter.
The U.S. Marine Corps emblem consists of three main elements: the eagle, the globe, and anchor. The eagle represents the United States, the globe signifies worldwide presence, readiness, the anchor stands for naval traditions and close ties to the U.S. Navy.
Next step we'll be entering is stage 3, where we're going to go into AWS CodePipeline. We're going to create a connection. The connection is going to be from the source, GitHub, to the deployed destination, which is the S3 bucket. Okay, so now we're in stage 3. Now we're still in the AWS console, but this time we're in CodePipeline. You can do CodePipeline in the search, and once you do that, it'll take you to the CodePipeline dashboard. So we're going to create a pipeline right now. So we're going to click. Now we're going to build a custom pipeline. So now let's go to next. Pipeline name. So we're going to give this a name that can be referenced with the S3 bucket and the GitHub repository. We want to keep the naming a bit consistent. So we're going to call this website queued. We're going to do new service role. You see, the name that's typed in is automatically plugged in with the role name that is automatically created. All right, so let's go to next. Role name. We're saying that this role name already exists, so we're going to add O1 to it. So now let's go to next. Okay, so it sees it as brand new. So now we're going to select source. We're going to go and select our GitHub account. So we're going to do the GitHub. Okay, we're going to look for a repository name. Let me go to the GitHub. Okay, so the connection just came up. So let me see. No, so this is not the name that we're using. This is an older name. So let's see. We're going to connect to GitHub. All right, connection name. Let me put in the name of the repository that was created. Okay, so it was Veterans USMC website. So let's connect to the GitHub. Let's wait a few minutes. Okay. All right, so it sees the connection. We're going to do the app installation. Let's install a new app. Okay, all repositories, nope. We want to only select one. And the repository that we're going to select is going to be Veterans USMC website. All right, we're going to give it read access, read and write access, install and authorize. Okay. So the connection name. So let's shorten the connection name. Let's just remove. All right, so that's the connection name. Let's connect. Okay, so we have connected to our GitHub account, repository name. This is the name, the repository, default branch. We're looking at the main branch. Okay, everything looks good. Let's go to next. Build, we're not going to build, so we're going to skip this step. Test, we're also going to skip this step. Deploy, we definitely can't skip this. We're going to deploy it to our S3 bucket. We're going to select Amazon S3. This is our region, North Virginia. The bucket is going to be a Veterans USMC website S3. That is correct. We're We're going to extract file before deploy. All right, everything looks good. We're going to select next. Okay, we have a review, steps 1 through 7. Let me make sure everything looks good. Everything looks good. Okay, so let's create the pipeline. Creating the pipeline is going to take a few minutes, 2 to 3 minutes. So we're going to let this run for a bit. Okay, so the pipeline has been created. All right, successfully. So we see the source. Now you can tell, you see the wheel spinning. So a commit has been pushed, or everything that's in our GitHub, the index.html file and the readme.md file has been pushed to our S3 bucket. So you can see a check here for the source, a check for deploy. You can also look at this through the executions tab, which lets you know status succeeded from our source revision, a trigger, because we created the pipeline, whatever was in the source was pushed to our destination. This was done in 5 seconds. So let's go to our S3 tab. We see the objects. Let's refresh. And as you can see, automatically our index.html file was pushed. Our readme.md file was pushed as well. Amazing. Okay, so let's go back to our pipeline. Okay, so now we're going to test. And you know what? Let's go back to our S3. Let's take a look at our index.html file. Well, before we do that, let me see. Okay, let's take a look at our index.html file. Keep in mind that the 2 images, the soldiers and USMC, have not been added to it. So what we're going to take a look at is the code that's on this file. So let's go to our properties. Let's go all the way down to the bucket website endpoint. We're going to copy. We're going to find a web browser. Paste that in. Enter. Okay. So we are now looking at the United States Marine Corps hymn, which is the oldest official song in the U.S. Armed Forces. It originates back in the 19th century. The lyrics, which begin with "From the halls of Montezuma, the shores of Tripoli," highlight key moments in the Marine Corps history, referencing the Mexican-American War and the First Barbary War. Now, it was officially adopted by the Marine Corps in 1929. It continues to be performed at ceremonies and events, embodying the valor and legacy of the Corps. When this song is sung amongst a platoon of soldiers, it can really get everyone pumped and charged for the activity at hand. But let me close that. All right, let's close this piece out. Go back to the bucket. So now, the next thing we want to do is, now, developers, what they do is if they want to make a change to the HTML file, they would go to the original file, modify it, upload it to replace this, refresh, and then hit the URL to see the changes. Now you can imagine how time consuming this can be. Modifying, uploading, refreshing, and changes. So what we're going to do is we're going to make changes on the index file at the GitHub side. And once we do those changes, we're going to push them to here. So let's go, let me take you to our GitHub. And you see the index.html file. So let me go to the file. So this is the code that's within the file. So when you saw the website, the hymn, that's all within this section. So right now we're going to edit this file. I'm going to go to my notepad and I'm going to put in I'm going to put in the images for those two files. So let's search and see where I'm going to put them. Alright, so I'm going to input them here. Okay, and I'm going to put a text file. Now this is pretty much what developers would do when they're working in the HTML file. Okay, so now that the modifications have been inputted into the file, we're going to do a commit changes. Commit message comes up. Usually if you're doing this, if different people do commits, you want to put a description of why. So since this is just myself for this project, we're just going to commit the changes. Now, let's go to CodePipeline. And as you can see, a commit has been notified and seen. So this is where the cogwheel is spinning. So a commit, if you look at executions tab, you see commit has been pushed and completed. So let's go back. We see deploy successful. So now let's take a look at the bucket. Now the change should take effect if I go to the properties, select the endpoint URL, web page, paste, enter, and you can see the changes. So you see the two photos have been added, and you see the wording Semper Fidelis, which is Latin, which means always faithful. For I was, am, and shall forever be a United States Marine. Hoorah! So this is what Marines usually say. Once again, as a former Marine, a veteran, this is something that we would always say and do. And as you can remember, this is the original Marine Corps hymn, what was showing by itself. Now the modifications that were done, the two pictures have been added, and the statement has been added. So let's click out of that. Go back to objects. Okay, so therefore you see the changes that were done. So now let's go back to CodePipeline. So as you can see, if a developer wanted to make a change, they would go into the GitHub repository. They would open up the index.html file, then make a modification. They would perform a commit, and the commit would push to CodePipeline. CodePipeline would push to the S3 bucket. And this would be an automatic thing that happens. Now let's say you want more control in this situation. You can have various developers making changes and committing, and if someone does something incorrectly, it would show in production. So what we need in between is we need a manual approval process. So let's go ahead and create that stage right here. So let's go and edit. And we have the source and we have deploy. I want to add a stage in between that. And the stage name, I'm going to call this approval process. Okay, so let's add the stage. So as you can see, the approval process has been added. Let me add an action group. Let's do an action name. I'm going to call this we did approval process. Approval required. Action provided is going to be a manual approval. And we're going to require, we want a comment to be added so that we know whoever approves it is going to add a comment. Okay, so we're going to do done. So there's a space. Spaces are not looked highly upon. So let's get rid of the space, put a dash in between, hit done. Okay, so we added our approval required, manual approval. Select done here, all the way to the top. Let's save this, save. And as you can see, in between source and deploy, we now have an approval process. So now, let's see what that would look like. So let's go back to our GitHub. And if you can remember, on the static website, we have the two images and we have the wording that was added. So let's do something different. Let's remove the images and leave the wording. So we're going to edit. We're going to go back to our area, the body. We're going to remove those two images. And we're going to leave the wording. So we're going to commit changes. Commit changes, go right ahead. So let's go back to CodePipeline. Now you see commit has been executed. We see the wheel spinning, the source wheel spinning. And in a few seconds, you're going to see it move over to the approval process. If you go to the, okay, see the approval process, you see a timer is pending. So myself, usually the senior developer or the manager would see this. They would click it. Do you want to approve it or reject it? So this is after looking at the changes in the HTML file. If I approve, I select approve. Type in something basic. I'm just going to do yes. I'm going to submit it. And we're going to wait a second. In progress, if you go to executions, you see it's taking some time. Go back to pipeline. Okay, so the approval succeeded. Now it's going to the deploy phase. All right, it's taking some time here. If you go to executions tab, it shows you that the commit was executed, it was pushed. Okay, now it's completed. 1 minute, 6 seconds. Go back to the pipeline. You got all three checks from the source, approval, and deploy. So now let's go to our S3 bucket. Let's go to the website endpoint, URL, web portal, web page. Enter. Okay, and as you see, the changes have been pushed in place. So we have the phrase, and the two photos have been removed. So now that is what it looks like when you have an approval process in between. And that pretty much concludes the stage 3. Now for our next stage, stage 4. So the developers are happy with the changes that we've done. They're happy with the automation. They're happy with the pipeline, the execution in S3. So now our developers are telling us that they have users from different regions complaining about the speed of the website. It takes a long time for it to connect. So what we want to do is we want to set up CloudFront, so that the website, the index.html file, is going to be cached on this CloudFront server, so that anyone that accesses the URL will immediately see the image. So that's going to be in our stage 4. Okay, so now we're going into stage 4, and that is we're going to create a CloudFront. We utilize a CloudFront service, so we can put our website on there and save it as cache. So, but before we do that, I want to modify the HTML file and add photos back, because I think I want to have this show the photos so that when we do the CloudFront, we can see how quickly it comes up with the additional changes of the photos being there. So we're going to go back to our GitHub. We're going to go back to the HTML file. We're going to go to our section. So let me go and copy from my notepad the two image, the URLs. Let me go in here and add them. Okay, they've added. Let me change the orientation of the photos. Let me do this really quick. So I want the emblem to come first, the soldiers to be second. Okay, then we have the wording. All right, so we're going to commit the changes. We're going to push that through. Let's go to our code pipeline. We see the cogwheel. Commit has been pushed. We're waiting for it to be pushed to our approval. Okay, so it hit the approval process. We're going to click that. Approve. Yes. Submit. Okay, we're going to wait till it pushes through to the deploy phase. Okay, you see a check mark. Let's just double check. Let's go to executions. Still in progress. We have to wait for that completion to be done. Let's go back. Still waiting. I guess with the adding of the photos, it does delay time. Okay, so the changes have been successfully done. Succeeded. Let's go to our S3 bucket. All right, so let's go to the endpoint web page. Okay, so as you can see, you see the two images and you see the phrase with the hymn. Perfect. So now let's close this out. So now let's go to our CloudFront. We're going to go to our CloudFront dashboard. You can go to this by typing CloudFront in the search bar. Let's see. We're going to create a brand new distribution. And let's see, the origin domain, we're going to select Veteran USMC website, the S3 bucket. All right, it's recommending that we use the S3 website endpoint rather than the bucket endpoint. Okay, let's use the endpoint. That has been completed. Protocol HTTP to 80. Let's see. Default settings. Compress objects. Viewer. Protocol. Okay, it's gonna any HTTP and HTTPS. Let's see. Cache. Do not enable security protections. Do not enable security protections. All right, we're going to use all edge locations for best performance. Let's see. All right, let's create the distribution. All right, the distribution has been successfully created. So this is the distribution domain name. This is the URL that we're going to use. This is what we're going to make public to users. So let's click on that. Let's go to a web browser. Let's copy paste. Now we're gonna have to give it a few more minutes because it takes a while for it to kick in. All right, let's go back to distribution. Let's put the URL.
Okay, so you see that the index.html file has loaded very quickly, that being with the 2 photos added as well, and everything looks good. So I'd like to thank you all for watching this video. In conclusion, I've created a repository in GitHub, an S3 bucket, enabled it for static website, created an AWS CodePipeline service. I've integrated everything together, created a manual approval process, created and modified an index.html file, and everything is good. So hopefully see you all in my next project. Thank you all very much.